Hi, I'm Wayne Tuttle, and this is Chasing Legends. Welcome back to Chasing Legends. I'm Wayne Tuttle, your host. Once again, please subscribe to our channel. Please hit the notification bell. Please leave comments. We try to review them. We used to get notification on the comments, and that stopped, so I have to go in and search them out, but I try to catch up on them. I'm a bit behind now. Visit our website at legendsofsuperstitionmountains.com. Dutch Hunter Rendezvous, November 14th, 15th, 16th. The 15th, all-day stuff. We got a hike in the morning. We got Woody Wampler, prospecting class, Tuttle National Forest, Jason Fritsch with his new book. There should be plenty to do. It'll always change a little as the day goes by. We do try to, first come, first serve, we do the chili and chili dogs. So you can have chili, you can have chili dogs, you can have a mixture of them or whatever you want until we run out, and then we do the guest speakers for the evening. But we're going to have something kind of all through the day so everybody can enjoy themselves. That being said and done, let's get to today's story. Because remember, we're in October. It's supposed to be spooky. You can't always find spooky, but you can find unusual, bizarre. Kind of like a little bit like the Twilight Zone. So today's story is about a story called The Red Ghost or The Red Beast. It starts in 1883, I believe, and down by Eagle Creek. And there's some ranchers. They have a ranch, and the families, they got to go out and move some of the cattle from one pasture to another. So the men and the older children go together, and they go out to do this, leaving the wives and a few younger children back by the houses. The women gather to do some things and do some work together. They're at the one house, cabin, and they hear something off behind the house out in the garden, and something comes out, and it absolutely just starts going crazy. They describe it as a big reddish-haired beast running through the property. The women go out, try to shoo it away, and then they start to run. One of the women gets run down by it. It kills her. The other woman, the wife that was there, she gets the children. They go in the house, they lock the door, and they can hear it outside for quite some time. The men come back, find the one woman dead out front. The other woman and the children are in the house. They're scared. They do not want to come down until they're sure. The men start looking around. They see the one woman has just been like trampled, beat to death. Like she'd been tossed and pieces are missing of her, and they're just like absolutely just what the hell. They find big cloven like footprints and stuff, and they can't describe any of it. They're looking around, and they realize some sort of beast. And the woman said, we barely saw it, but it was reddish, and it was hairy, and it was huge. She said it was just absolutely enormous. And the men are just like caught up. So it makes actually the local papers, because the men go in and they have to report the woman died. And they tell people this thing happened. Some people want to believe it, some people don't. Well, shortly after, some prospectors up Eagle Creek in the area run into something comes out of the brush, and they say their camp was attacked by something very similar. Came through and knocked them over and just absolutely was going crazy. And the men are just like, what the hell was that? Shortly thereafter, another gentleman sees this thing, and he says it must be the same thing, and he claims it kills a grizzly bear. This seems odd, well, for two things. I didn't know grizzly bears, brown bears, were as indigenous to Arizona as I guess they were at that time. The last grizzly bears, probably by the turn of the century, were gone in Arizona or shortly thereafter. But there were brown bears, and in a lot of the different areas of Arizona. So this thing seems to be, as the stories say, moving north. And people occasionally see it, sometimes in a distance, sometimes up close. And all their stories are, it's just this thing. It's some sort of red devil beast. And it comes out and it just scares the crap out of people. Well, up on the Salt River, A gentleman's there, and he sees it finally one day, and he sees it across the other side of the salt, and he's looking at it, and he realizes, what the hell, there's a camel over there. And this thing is just acting kind of like aggressive and angry, but it's across the river, and he watches it. And he can't tell what's going on with it. It's kind of at a distance, but he's like, I'm pretty damn sure that's a camel. I wonder if that's what these people have been seeing. Well, the story doesn't make a lot of sense, but most everyone has heard of Jefferson Davis, who was at one time the president of the Confederacy. Well, before the Civil War, part of his thing, I think he was the Secretary of the Secretary of State or Secretary of War. He actually thought it would be a good idea to bring over camels and use them for the military, for packing supplies and all so forth, because they didn't require a lot to eat, a lot to drink. He thought that would be a great thing to use. They spent like 30 grand, brought over 100 or something, but they brought a bunch of camels over and started training and trying to work them in. One of the problems with working with the camels was you had the mule skinners and different people and the packers that were used to working with mules or horses, and they were actually not very kind to them. They would beat them, just awful. Well, camels don't take to this. And they had a lot of problems with the mule skinners would start to beat a camel that wasn't behaving properly or doing what they wanted, and the camel would turn on the mule skinner. A couple were killed and several were injured. So this became problematic, so they needed to bring a couple guys over. You've heard of the grave of High Jolly. There was a couple guys they brought in, and they started to work with people, not only to work with the camels, but to teach people. There was actually a camel corps. The whole thing fades out right at the Civil War. Jefferson Davis goes over the Confederacy, becomes the president of the Confederacy, and the whole thing's almost dropped. The camels get stable, they are around, but they're just not being used because that whole project falls apart. Well, after the Civil War, they have all these camels, and they're spread out through New Mexico, Arizona, California. They don't know what to do with them. They try to sell them. People aren't interested in buying the camels. And a lot of them get turned loose, either get themselves loose or get turned loose. So there's a time period here where there were loose, and they weren't really wild, but there were loose camels out in the Arizona, California deserts and so forth. And quite a few of them got loose, or after they got purchased, people couldn't work with them, so they just turned them loose. And that's what they believe the Red Devil is it's a camel. But it gets more curious because 5 prospectors are along the Gila, and this camel's still out there, and they look over and they see it, and they go, there was something on the back of it. And they saw it riding through, and it looked like it had a saddle or something, but they say, there was a skeleton on that. And everybody thinks this is absolutely hilarious, that there's a skeletal man that rides this wild camel. Oh, this is fiction. But they took shots at the camel. While they did not seem to injure the camel, they hit the skeleton. And the skeleton pieces broke off, and part of that was the skull. So they bring in this skull in these random pieces. Now the story's even more bizarre, because there's a loose camel that seems to have gone mad, has been running around the desert for almost 10 years, and strapped to the back of it is the skeletal remains of some guy. Does not sound like even possible, but then other sightings happen, and they say, yeah, there's a headless skeleton now riding on the camel. I want to get this guy's name. He's a rancher. His name is Mizzou Hastings, and in 1893, 10 years after that attack at the ranch in Eagle Creek, Mizzou Hastings is out working on his property, and this camel comes into his garden, starts going through his garden, and starts acting up. He comes out with his rifle and does what no one else has been able to do in 10 years. 2-3 shots, bang, that's it. The camel's dead. Dies right there on the property. And he goes over to investigate, calls the newspaper and everybody else. It's well reported. People come out. They find it has straps, like it had a saddle or something. There's still part of the straps and stuff. And there are a few bones still attached to it. But what the best they can figure is somehow either someone was on the camel and they died and the camel just kept going and going, or someone decided to do a cruel act of fate and strap someone to a camel and let them ride. But can you imagine being in the Arizona desert looking across, this red, giant reddish camel comes firing out, spitting, making noises. Most people probably didn't know what camels were. And on top of it, perched atop of it, is a human skeleton. I'm sure the just optics of that just blew people's minds. And when people were trying to explain what they saw, it was almost impossible, and everybody's going, yeah, right, dude. You saw a camel with a skeleton riding through there, and it tried to attack you, and then it ate a grizzly bear. Right on. Story's absolutely 100% true. They ended up killing Mizzou. Hastings did that. All the newspaper accounts from various years. I was surprised at how many accounts and how much documentation was on that. So there you go. The Red Devil explained finally. I don't know when was the last time they found a camel in the Arizona desert. They obviously didn't breed or something like that. But that's the story of the red ghost of the desert. I hope you enjoyed that for October. It is an unusual and odd story. It fits the theme of things. I hope to see you at the rendezvous, November 14th, 15th, and 16th, and hope you're having a wonderful day and a great rest of the week. Thank you for supporting Chasing Legends. We always appreciate it. Yes, we're in a period where we're telling stories that we think could be true, maybe not, but as we go, like this one, it's documented. I left a number of stories on the shelf that will be dusted away because they were just made up AI stuff from the internet or other places I found them. I'm not going to do that. I want something we can sink our teeth into. So always remember the most important thing. You can say it with me. You don't have to. You can just sit there and smile and look off in the distance. Or you can actually turn this off and walk away. But I'm Wayne Tuttle. You're not. And this was Chasing Legends.